You know, people look at horror pretty much the way they do a comedy. What makes one person laugh may not be funny to another. And what scares one person may not be scary to another. The same thing holds with culture. Tonight's lesson plan comes from Turkey, and they certainly have a different view of horror than we're used to here in America. Makes the movie rather interesting. As cinematic class is about to begin, and your professor is in. Greetings, salutations, and other sundry affair. I am your cinematic professor and purveyor of truth in movies. Tonight's lesson plan comes from Turkey, and it's a movie called The Antenna. You know, Turkey has, this is one of, I should set this up by saying, this is one of those horror films that has a lot of tie in to government and politics. Turkey has, for lack of a better term, an interesting government situation currently going on there and has for a number of years. So it's not too surprising that the theme of this movie deals with individuals trying to struggle against becoming an automaton of the government. There. And therein lies the horror. Can you maintain your own identity? Or will you become another faceless drone of government management? So let me tell you that this story starts off a little bit slow. It really, really does. And because it starts out so slow, it is too long. There's a lot that could be trimmed off of this. Coming in at about 2 hours, it's a good 30 minutes longer than it needs to be. So they put an awful lot into the setup, much more than they really had to. I mean, we got the idea in the first 5 minutes. It wasn't any need to drag it on for so long. There's a couple of interesting things here. One, that the government is selling this unification of everybody operating as one single unit, working for the good of all, and they're selling it as a good thing. We are doing this for you. You will be helped by this. And of course, nothing is further from the truth. And we hear those statements being made by politicians of today. They always have your best interest in heart, and yet nothing seems to make sense. Here in my home state of Pennsylvania, you have to look no further than our own governor, Tom Wolf, who has made some of the most ridiculous mandates during this Wuhan virus. He's even made national media coverage as to his stupidity on this thing, okay? But everything is always surrounded by we're doing it for your own good. I don't do it. None of my company interests do it, but we're taking care of you. And this apparently is a real big problem in Turkey because it permeates this movie. So, what is the antenna? The antenna is a government controlled feed into your house. Remember back at the old TV show, The Outer Limits? We will control all that you see and hear. That's basically what the Turkish government is going to do here. They're going to control everything. You won't know anything unless the government tells you. And the government won't tell you anything they don't want you to know. Now, if we tie that over into our country, this is exactly what would have happened under the Net Neutrality Act. You may remember back during the Obama regime that President Obama was pushing with his minion, Tom Wheeler, head of the FCC, for this program called net neutrality. And just like in this movie, they were saying, it's for your own good. We'll save you money, and cable companies won't be able to gouge you. What a crock of horseshit that was. This was nothing more than government control of the internet. Now, I read the act, I saw through this thing, and I fought long and hard to make sure that net neutrality did not pass. And thankfully, it didn't. Okay? There's talk of it coming up again, depending on the elections in November. You don't want this thing, believe me, because under the guise of saving you money, you're not going to have a free internet anymore. So, bottom line is that same thing that was going on back during the Obama regime is happening here in Turkey, and they're very much aware. And I bring these things up only because they are so noticeable while you're watching this movie. That there is another political merge in with the horror that's going on in this movie, and that is the upcoming, just starting a little bit but gently cresting, wave of the 5G. You see, this antenna in Turkey is a brand new technology. I mean, every home is going to have this. And this is going to be something that, my goodness gracious, you can't live without this type of thing. And it's going to be good for you as it turns you into this faceless Autobahn. It's not going to work, okay? The same thing is going on now with this idea or concept of 5G. And I don't know how many of you are following this, but apparently this 5G is the all-new white bread. This is the thing that's going to save all communications and be great, and everyone's going to have it, and it's going to be literally everywhere. And more importantly, it's going to control everything that you do. Okay, given that, some people say, well, that makes things easy, Given that, there seems to be some question as to the medical effects of this 5G. The frequency, apparently, according to some medical studies, does not do well for the human body. Now, you can look all that stuff up and research it on your own. But it's kind of interesting that theme, although they don't come right out and say, this is a 5G system, it's interesting that theme is in this movie, so that it's kind of starting at a very early. The government has a technology that will turn you into a robot of someone of their doing, and they're doing it through a brand new technology that is going to make life better for you. Now that is scary. Now, I have to tell you that because of the obvious political ties that you can see out of this movie, I found it a little bit interesting. The movie's just not particularly put together well. Outside of a lot of overhead shots, which are kind of interesting, some people will call them bird's eye view shots. The movie is really slow, and it takes a time to get together and to work itself out. And I'm not sure how many of you are going to be real happy with the conclusion of this thing. But I found it kind of interesting that culture is, at least the makers of this film, have the same anxieties for technology and government control of technology that we should have over here. And some people do. I guess in that instance, they're a little more on the ball. But most people are oblivious to. So in that case, I found this a little bit interesting, and it was kind of fun to watch. Unless you're really into that type of thing and you're a little up on what's going on with the whole 5G and the previous net neutrality proposal, this one might seem a little bit far-fetched for you. Other than what it turns you into, there's no big monsters here. The horror, the terror, the monster is the government and its control of all that you see and hear. And believe me, that is frightening.
Now, you have learned what you have learned.
Here endeth your lesson.